IVM.
Hi, I'm Utsav, a behavior researcher by training and a slow traveler by passion. Postcards from Nowhere is a travel podcast where I condense a decade of travel experiences and explore not just the where, but also the why and how to travel. My stories emerged from slow traveling the less explored parts of the world: Bosnia and Herzegovina, Armenia, Uzbekistan, and even China. At the end of each story, I give practical tips and new ideas about how to travel better. This week, I take you to a place deep in South America, where distance and time have stamped their authority, a place which reminds us of our insignificance. On January 17, 1994, at 4:30 a.m. local time, a massive earthquake hit San Fernando Valley region in Los Angeles, about 30 kilometers from downtown LA. It came to be known as the Northridge earthquake. Two strange things happened in its aftermath. There was a sudden outbreak of valley fever, a respiratory disease caused by inhaling of fungal spores. 203 cases were reported, and 3 people succumbed to the disease. It is believed that the spores were carried in large clouds of dust created by seismically triggered landslides. Most of these cases were actually reported immediately downwind of the landslides. But yet another thing which happened as people poured onto the streets once the earthquake hit. There was a power outage for most of LA. Some people left their houses or peered outside to check on their neighborhood. It was eerily dark. No street lights and a few cars that early in the morning. People had looked into the dark sky to see what some anxiously described as a giant silvery cloud over the shaken city. People panicked. They could not make sense of this giant silvery cloud and called 911. Some even called the Griffith Observatory, hoping that astronomers would make sense of it. What had spooked the residents of Los Angeles was the Milky Way. Owing to the intense light pollution, most people had never seen the beautiful arc of our galaxy. Indeed, as a city dweller myself, I can count on my fingers the number of times I have been afforded the opportunity to see this tiny part of the cosmos. In her book, The Human Cosmos, science journalist Jo Marchant reckons that our fascination with the stars goes back millennia, right back to the Paleolithic age. We have paid meticulous attention to them and experienced them as a source of wonder, admiration, and even reverence. The sight of a star-filled sky is a unifying inheritance of our species. About 8,000 kilometers from LA sits a 79,000 square kilometer expanse of land at an elevation of almost 8,000 feet. So persistently dry is this landscape that it receives only 15 millimeters of rainfall every year. At first sight, the Atacama Desert may come across as inhospitable. But its barrenness, its inhospitability, is what makes it magnificent. A visit to the Rainbow Valley makes one feel that they are seeing a geological graffiti. Cobalt, gypsum, and other minerals provide a cornucopia of colors: green, blue, pink, and yellow. Travel further, and one could visit the Moon Valley. It has an eerie extraterrestrial appearance, all cracked earth and unfriendly terrain, with pillars of salt torturing the thirsty soil. But all one needs to do is shift their gaze. As the sun descends and one looks up, you will see the Atacama Desert bathing in a soft glow, making it one of the global hotspots for stargazing. The near-complete absence of light pollution produces gloriously clear night skies. In fact, so perfect are conditions that the European Southern Observatory operates 2 bases here: La Silla Observatory and Paranal Observatory, windows on worlds beyond worlds. But isn't it strange? We need to be away from all our markers of civilizational progress, electricity chief amongst them, and go to the quietest, most barren, and almost inhospitable place to hear and see the faintest echoes of the world beyond us. We need a piece of land bang in the middle of nowhere to peer into the cosmos and see everywhere. But once again, I want you to shift your gaze and look at the desolate earth of the Atacama Desert. It only supports a few hardy species of lichen, algae, fungi, and bacteria. They mostly survive by clinging to mineral and salt deposits that concentrate moisture for them. These microbes often enter states of suspended animation during dry spells, waking up only when they have enough water to get by. So in 2017, when a freak rainstorm swept through the Atacama, it led to a wildflower bloom. Kilometers upon kilometers of the desert were carpeted by flowers of various hues, transforming the landscape, showing shades of the rich biodiversity of the nearby Patagonian region. Water truly gave life to a once barren land. But those microbes, who survived on mineral and salt deposits, met with a cruel fate. Majority of them in the soil were wiped out. The scientists traced this massacre back to the very thing that allows the microbes to survive in the Atacama, their ability to hoard water. Under normal conditions, their miserliness pays off. But when faced with a glut of water, they can't turn off their molecular machinery and guzzle until they burst from internal pressure. But what's the big deal about a few microbes perishing when there was a wildflower bloom to be had? Well, these microbes could be the closest analogues to life on Mars. As we now know, Mars wasn't always a dry planet. For its first billion years, it had vast liquid oceans and plenty of mineral nutrients. The drying out may have taken eons, with long periods of water scarcity punctuated with short periods of abundance. Simply put, the rainstorms in parts of the Atacama Desert were an accelerated view of what may have happened on Mars. The uniqueness of the Atacama lies in its ability to allow us to look at planets and stars light years away. Standing on that very ground, one could look down and study closely what could have happened on Mars billions of years ago. I hope to visit the place someday to see how both distance and time, in the most cosmic way possible, stamp their authority on the Atacama. I hope to see the insignificance and magnificence of our planet, of us.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Utsav Memory on Twitter and YVTravel42 on Instagram.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Storytel and The Whole Truth Foods. Thank you for supporting us. So, great week on the network again this week. Definitely do check out the Pragati podcast. Pavan spoke to Krish Ashok. They discussed science, knowledge, and the wonder of Indian home cooking. Staying in the realm of food, on This Round Is On Me, we had A.D. Singh as a guest. Gauri and A.D. discussed the 10 years anniversary of The Table and the 20-year anniversary of Olive. So two of Bombay's biggest restaurateurs have a conversation about the restaurant business. All Things Policy celebrated 500 episodes on January 27th. Manoj talks to Aditya and Anirudh about the surprising origins of the podcast, its evolution over the last few years, and its exciting future. This episode also marks their video debut, so definitely do check that out on YouTube. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet talks to Ranjit Pratap Singh. Ranjit is the co-founder and CEO of Pratilipi. Pratilipi is a company that's recently acquired IVM, and Ranjit on this episode discusses his plans to build a homegrown media empire, his love for comics, and how India can have its own comic cinematic universe. And finally, Cyrus had an exciting week. We had some amazing guests this week. We had Vishal Gondal come and talk about Fauji. We had Atish Tathir talk about the various issues that he had been facing with his OCI card and other things like that. We had Adam Dow talk about things going on in the US and the evolution of what's happening there. We had Siddharth Kannan come and talk about his history with Cyrus and his new show. So definitely do come check that out as well. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Want to learn something new and have a few minutes to spare? Well, then go for the Traveling Professor's Diary, where I, Siddharth Deshmukh, the Traveling Professor, will help you glean from all the insights that I've gained from wherever I've traveled, learned, taught, and repeated. Join me every Tuesday and Thursday on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.